again, and welcome back to Perfectly Paranormal, episode 108. My name's Annaschmidt, and I'm here every week to share with you true paranormal encounters and information about devils, demons, and dark energy beings that no one else talks about. And today I have a question from Kate, who asks, what annoys demonic entities? And I thought you might like to hear my observations and thoughts on this very topic, as I've had some rather strange and downright frightening experiences over the years when I've annoyed demonic entities. Yes, as a newbie, I did it too, especially when it came to doing house clearing energy work. And I learnt the hard way. And I'll have to say that I never forgot the lessons learnt. I have my top 5 demon annoying topics ready to share, so let's get into it. So number 1 on our list is ego. People who live in ego and transfer this rather destructive characteristic into, say, paranormal investigations or bragging and boasting about dark entities in negative ways, or talking about their tally of demon slaying scores. They're going to get a very rude awakening in one way or another by disgruntled entities. And back in episode 8, I shared an experience that I had with a man that I call Ken. And Ken was bragging about his demon score when clearing a property in the US. And all he did was upset the energy beings in that property. And just through simply the email that he sent me and another fellow house healer in the UK, we both got involved through this bragging in his emails. These beings were not happy. They tracked us down and caused lots of problems in our homes. So if you want to hear the full story, go back to episode 8 and have a listen. And also too, this is a real biggie, and this accounts for ego as well. People who think that they can summon and control demonic entities through doing some sort of black magic or occult practices. These beings have a mind of their own. Even if when they're under what I call under contract, which means they've been sent out into the earth environment to go and harm someone. Who's to say they're going to do what they're told? After all, they are energy beings and quite powerful and quite strong-minded. So we can't control them. And ego really does get a lot of people in big trouble. Now, talking about big trouble, oh dear, back in the early days, again, I was a real sucker in the early days of doing energy work, and I got into all sorts of mischief. Not of my own making, well, kind of, but more so wanting to help people who really didn't want help because they liked what they were doing because their ego was so big when it came to dealing with the paranormal. Now, there's a lady I can mention, and I talked about her back in episode 5. Now, she was a local lady here in Tasmania who wanted me to visit her house. And she proudly boasted and declared herself to be a demon slayer. And she said to me that she was the head of a family of demon slayers. And when I visited her home, oh my goodness, her home's energy was ballistic. I sat in her kitchen at the table and I could feel energy beings coming and going, getting closer to me, moving away, assessing my level of ego and whether I was a threat or not. And this was all because of her ego. Those words, demon slayer, demon hunter, using those sorts of terms really, really peeves off dark and demonic beings. And her ego times her negative intentions towards these beings in the environment of slaying them. She used to call them out. And when they came, I would be sitting in her kitchen a couple of times. So I ended up not being able to help this lady because she wanted change, but she didn't want change. It was really quite complex. These beings would come and the whole place would just feel, how can I put it? It felt like it had gone to hell. It's probably the best way to explain it. And she wondered why her life had literally been turned upside down. So if you want to hear her full story, you can have a listen to episode 5. Now, disrespect. Disrespect comes in second on our list. All energy beings, whether it be spirits, elementals, right through to the big bad boys in the darkest of the dark realm, deserve respect. They all have reasons why they are here and for the many jobs that they have to do. And who's to say that we aren't overlapping with their reality and we're in their space? Because ego, getting back to number 1, ego tells us that they're invading our environment. But who's to say it's our environment? I often say, and I'm not a scientist and I can't prove it, but I feel that all of the realities are all overlapping, all in the same place, all at the same time. It's like a mishmash of all different types of energy beings present all in the one place. And no wonder it's chaos sometimes. Now this is this came to me right at the end of writing notes for this episode. People who perform exorcisms. Now this needs to be done very, very respectfully. Obviously of the client and their needs, but also respectfully of the entity or entities, because believe me, there is always more than one that they're dealing with. They need to be respectful. Calling them out and calling them names is only going to peeve them off and make them more angry. When they're angry because you've annoyed them, that's when they get nasty. When you're respectful, the universal law says that what you put out is what you get back. Now, I know there's people out there going, oh, demons aren't going to honour that. Well, I find that 90% of the time they do, because they're part of the universe. They need to follow the rules. Most of the time they do. There's some that don't. There's always rebel factions. There's always those that go against the rules. But I'm still here, I'm still fully functional, and I've been working with these beings for a very, very long time. And I'm talking the darkest of the dark. I'm talking Legion generals. Horns, hooves, big muscly bodies, and not very patient when it comes to humans. So I've learnt to really, really respect all levels of paranormal beings. And I talk to them. This is all levels, spirits right through to the dark and demonic beings. I'll talk to them the same way that I talk to people that I just want to have a conversation with. We just want to clear the air, work out why they're in a certain place and move them on. There's a few different places they can be moved on to, but we're not going to talk about that today. Now, getting back to people performing exorcisms. These beings, which we'll say possess people, are generally the demonic level beings, as you would imagine. Now, they always transfer to someone else in the room because we're all vulnerable, and they'll go to the most vulnerable person, or they'll go to the person who's doing the energy clearing work. Now, I don't call myself an exorcist, but I clear people of paranormal beings all the time. People that might have a few spirits roaming around in their energy field, a few dark beings. They might have 5, 6, 8, 10, 15. And I think one lady at one stage had 28 demonic level beings with her. She had a lot of mental health issues, very vulnerable, lots of life trauma. That's what the beings were drawn to. And they all moved on eventually. And the lady is still having mental health care because that's what you need. That's what your physical body needs after these energy beings are removed. So these demonic beings will transfer to someone in the room. And I know that. I know it for a fact. Because when I used to do energy clearings for people and I didn't have super solid protection, they would actually come around either my organs or usually my brow or my crown chakra because they were a little bit overactive doing the energy work, or they'd hang around my energy field. And I would suddenly feel a bit dizzy, a bit brain foggy, a bit upset in the stomach, something's shifted, something's changed. Now I've got really good protection. They'll actually come around my property boundary, around my house. They can't get in. They can't get to me. And even if they did, I've got personal protection. So what I share on this podcast are things that I've experienced, and I've found ways to solve the problem, and then I can share with people what I know. Now, misinformation. This comes in at number 3, and this is a problem when people spread mistruths about the behaviours and actions of dark entities. whether through conversations or video or, say, paranormal investigations of haunted sites or in paranormal horror movies. These beings, some of them don't like being represented in that way because they're here for particular reasons. They're just doing their job. And it's interesting to observe social media platforms and how people thrive on dark attack, paranormal horror. And when people like me come along and share a different perspective, most people aren't interested. Because what I've got to share is experiences in reality when working with these beings. And like I always say, they're not as scary as what you think. So I don't have much problem with these entities when it comes to talking about them, sharing information about them. A book I wrote called The Darkness Around Us. I actually had a Legion General overseeing me writing this book. Now you're going to go, how does she know that? She's just making it all up. No. I had an energy being in my house for about 18 months, and the energy of this house changed. Not necessarily in a bad way, but I had people who came here and they're like, what's shifted in your house? And especially males, this being didn't like males for some reason, don't know why, maybe they challenged his sense of authority. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. But these beings will let you share information about them as long as it's done in a respectful way. This is why I can do this podcast. This is why I could write the book. And then it got published and then it's out there in the environment. If they weren't happy with what I wrote or through my podcast or through my YouTube channel, they would find ways to disrupt the communication, to take down the channels, to cause all sorts of electrical problems that would just make me want to pull my hair out like, ugh, why is this happening? Now, understanding when to step away. This comes in at number 4. I found this out the hard way because in my early days of coming to terms with my paranormal addiction, which is a problem for me, but I channel it through my work. During paranormal house investigations or paranormal house clearing work, I had a few experiences where I overstepped the boundaries and was smacked down to size, more energetically than physically, but I did get a few pushes, pokes, prods and electric shocks from these beings when I was at that particular time in my life because I was being disrespectful. This is when I was in my 20s. I mean, age has got nothing to do with it, but that's about 30 years ago when I started doing this work. Now, there's some places in this world where energy clearing work is a no-go zone. These places are so corrupted by human satanic behaviours and practices that they simply can't be safely energetic cleaned without causing major life disruption to the person doing the work and possibly to the person's family and pets living under the same roof. Because remember, these beings know where you are. They observe every conversation we have about them. They watch the videos that we put out. You know, they are very, very aware of how we humans represent them out in society. Now, I was pulled into doing one energy clearing job by a client who didn't really want the job done, but more so just wanted to complain and dramatise about her whole situation. For this lady, it was a mental health condition. And what she was doing is her mental health condition had attracted some paranormal beings that were attached to the trauma attached to her mental health condition. And she was annoying them by the way she was complaining and moaning and dramatising and carrying on about it constantly. I couldn't help that lady. I did try, and then I started to have problems. And I'm like, right. I said to this lady, please see your doctor and your mental health professional first. Get yourself a little bit more level-headed. See what they can clear for you to help you move through your trauma, to help you live a more balanced life. And then if there's still an issue, still underlying something, there might be an energetic portion that needs attention. Now, another lady, this was a recent client because I've had some issues with people setting up booby traps in their houses to try and catch me. I mean, this ties in with ego. Why are they trying to take me down? Seriously, I'm a really, really nice person. I'm a little bit strange, I'm a little bit odd, but my heart is in the right place and I will help anyone that comes to me. But if I sense that there is magic or hoodoo or voodoo or any sorcery attached to these jobs, I simply will not do them. Now, I'm saying this because I had a client who set up masses and masses of sorcery and magic entities in her home as a type of booby trap to cause me mental and emotional and physical harm. Now, when I received this job as a referral from a fellow house healer, this person said they couldn't do it. Now, this person was tied in with the other person. It's a bit like a spider web, really, if you think about it. And they were trying to catch me in this web. Well, when I realised what this person was up to, I very politely refunded her clearing fee, and I said that the job was too complex for me and that she needed to find a magic practitioner specialising in property clearing of that sort. Now, I generally don't refuse jobs, but I will not put myself in harm's way anymore because it's happened in the past. I will not do it again. This is where it comes to understanding when to walk away. Now, this tied into ego, disrespect and misinformation, this lady, like seriously, and harmful intent. I've had entity attack on me, and this wasn't just normal entities, this was summoned entities. Now, it's very complex, and I'm not going to be talking too much about magic today. I talked about it back in episode 100 with Laura. Laura and I have been through a whole heap of magic interference in the last 3 years. So if you want to hear about what it's like to live with what I call magic interference, have a listen to episode 100. And coming to number 5, religious artifacts. Now, we see them used all the time. People think they're going to keep the demons out of their houses, they're going to keep the demons away. Well, these items do and don't annoy demons in the ways that you might expect. People who think that burning incense and sacred herbs will shift demonic entities from people, homes or other locations. Or you've got people who are brandishing the cross like Ken did back in episode 5 and sprinkling his holy water everywhere. His ego was so huge that he peeved off those energy beings. I believe in God. I believe in Christ. I actually like the cross and the crucifix. I was brought up a Catholic, now I'm more a spiritually based belief. But I have a strong connection for working with the angels, archangels and the Christ energy, the Christ consciousness. So I believe in working with God, if you want to put it that way. But God's not going to solve our problems. So when it comes to thinking that you just assume that religious artifacts are going to keep demons away, it just more so annoys them. So when people are brandishing the crucifix and shoving holy water in their faces, it really does annoy them. It actually doesn't have any effect at all. For all those people out there that are getting a little bit upset, a person's faith will give them a level of confidence and a level of empowerment and protection. But it's not 100% protection proof. Because, and this is the reason why, because most people carry around some level of fear or paranoia or anxiety about demons and demonic entities and they're going to get possessed and they're in my house and oh my God, they're frightening me. Whereas really, no, they're only going to frighten you because you expect them to frighten you. That's how they work. They see what frightens us in the movies. We actually give them ideas about how to frighten people who then create the emotional imprints that they then feed off. It's really a vicious cycle. So if you don't talk about them and you live your life in the highest vibration that you can, you see a mental health professional if you have mental and emotional problems. Sort through your problems, focus on the positivity in life, focus on living the best life that you can. Dark and demonic beings aren't interested in you, believe me. I've moved away from a lot of negative emotions I used to talk about when I would create hostility and resentment. I don't do it anymore. Very, very minimally. And they don't hang around me. They just don't. Because I've got no food for them. that kind of wraps it up today for our 5 top demon annoying practices and behaviours. And I hope this information is giving you some food for thought about how you think and speak about the dark paranormal world around us. So in episode 109, we have a question from Liz in Canada. Liz often observes entities around her in the public all the time, and she asks the best questions. And this one did not disappoint. Liz asks, who or what is in control of all the layers of paranormal beings and entities around us, especially if in one place? So stay tuned for next week's episode to hear my multi-layered reply to Liz's question. Who is in control, what these beings get up to, and who holds the power? And if you like this episode, you want to learn more about the paranormal, I am always sharing new information that nobody else does. Please hit the subscribe button, send me a comment, send me one of your stories. So thank you for joining me today. And don't forget, if you want to share a paranormal experience just with myself, or you would like me to share one of your experiences through my podcast, you can do a voice recording, or you can write out your experience and I will read it exactly as you have written. You can email me at spiritualbeing44@gmail.com. And for information on paranormal house clearing, you can visit my website, Spiritual Being. You will find the address in the description box. And I look forward to sharing this spooky space again with you next week. And remember, life is perfectly paranormal.